Ladies and gentlemen, and hockey fans of all ages, welcome back to another exciting edition of Randy Talks Hockey. I am your host, Randy Dillon. It was a busy week in the NHL, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls of all ages. We had trades, coaches being fired, injuries, team playoff hopes are swindling out of their hands. Team draft hopes are getting really high, and some teams, it's just been a disaster. We're going to go through all that, give you a little bit of update on the trade rumor front, and tell you what we'll be doing a little bit for Tradecenter. Well, let's start off, ladies and gentlemen, what I think is possibly some big news that happened this past week. We're going to start off with the best player in the NHL, Connor McDavid, and the Edmonton Oilers. McDavid suffered an injury. He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. About 10 games. A big blow for the Oilers. Possibly the Oilers' playoff hopes could be decided without the likes of Connor McDavid. But what's getting even worse is Zach Kassian. What are you doing, Zach? Zach Kassian has been suspended for 7 games for kicking a player with a skate. Even I know that is stupid. I think 7 games is more than enough. Get the message across. Zach, you can't kick someone with a skate. It's more than safety for a call. But the big thing for the Oilers, they have 2/3 of their top line out now. Really, the Oilers' playoff hopes are going to be on the back of Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and the goaltending of Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. Mike Smith was great in a game against Tampa, unfortunately on the losing side. Draisaitl was great in a game against Chicago, where he put up 4 points. The Oilers got to keep this up for about 7 to 8 games until McDavid, Kassian return, unless Ken Holland does something at the deadline. But oh boy, they are in a pickle. Minnesota Wild, they had a busy week as well. Earlier in the week, they traded Jason Zucker to the Penguins in exchange for Callan Addison, Alec Galchenyuk, and a conditional first-round pick, either this year draft in 2020 next year in 2021, depending what the Penguins do if they miss the playoff this year or not. A good move for the Wild. They get a good young defensive prospect and Addison, a first-round pick. The big question is going to be Galchenyuk. What are you going to do with him? This could be Galchenyuk's last kind of cricket the can to show he is a legitimate top 6 or 9 forward. Fortunately, it hasn't gone right in Pittsburgh. He had ample of opportunity. Can he get it in Minnesota? Or is he going to be shipped off at the deadline to another team that needs some offense, possibly a little bit of offensive help? But the Wild fired their head coach, Bruce Boudreau, yesterday, and this was a little bit of a head scratcher. The Wild are currently 3-4 points out of a playoff spot. So why are you firing your head coach now rather than the earlier season when it was a dreadful start for the Wild? According to an article I read on ESPN, the Wild management were not happy with how the team was playing. Their numbers were low, and they're blowing leads, which you can't do it when you're fighting for a playoff spot. Now, could they wait till the end of the season to fire Bruce Boudreau? Yeah, possibly, but I guess the Wild, Bill Guerin and staff want to do everything in their power to get Minnesota to make the playoffs. It's going to be interesting, though, what the team does at the deadline, because Matt Dumba's name is pretty high out there. There's rumors Carolina's in talk of acquiring him. If the Hurricanes get Dumba on their blue line, oh my goodness, what a blue line that will be, especially next season when Dougie Hamilton's back and healthy. It's all going to depend in these next little week or so where the Wild are. And they have some big games. They have a big game against the Sharks this afternoon. Now, speaking of the Sharks, oh my goodness, it was not a good week for them. Erik Karlsson is out the reign of the season with an injury. Just had been an awful season for him and for the Sharks. And then Evander Kane is suspended for 3 games for an elbow to Winnipeg defenseman Neil Pionk. I'm not going to really argue with the suspension. They're an elbow this day league. You can't do that. But I did like what Evander Kane said on Twitter. He's like, to George Crown safety, there's so much inconsistency. Yes. Spend players who you want, you don't want. It's like you're really biased. It was just a crazy rant. You should go on Twitter and check it out soon before Kane deletes his tweet. I just think it's incredible. He's saying all this. What's going to be the repercussions of that? But for the San Jose Sharks, minus all that, They have had an awful year. Don't forget, Ottawa had their first round pick. The Senators and Pierre Dorian probably just skipping right now, happy as they know they could get 2 very high first round picks, maybe back to back, 1 or 2, 2 or 3, who knows. But for San Jose, what is Doug Wilson's future? I think he's really on thin ice after the season they had. The fact is they're losing a high first round draft pick. We'll see if Shark ownership make that decision, but Wilson has been there for a very long time, so maybe they feel Wilson can get them out of this hole like he did a couple of years ago. Winnipeg Jets, they had a good week and a bad week. The good news, Paul Maurice has been got an extension for being the head coach of the Jets. Well deserved, by the way. Maurice has done a fantastic job as the head coach, especially with everything that happened with Dustin Byfuglien, really keeping this team fighting for a playoff spot. The bad news, Brian Little is out with an injury for the remainder of the year. It really hurt the Jets' depth. The other thing, how does it affect Kevin Dayoff and the Jets' trade deadline plan? We know they want a defenseman, but now do they have to go get a centerman, a forward? Who are they really going to get to replace that bill? Because they know the defense is key high. It does not look good for Winnipeg. They are scratching and calling for that final wild card spot, but they still have time. Maybe Kevin Sheldon can pull a rabbit out ahead, get a good young centerman. Maybe not going to be a Pajot, maybe going to be a low-risk centerman, and they still want a defenseman. Remember, Brendan Dillon's on the talk. Maybe they'll go after a guy like Derek Forbort from the LA Kings. If you think they're panicking San Jose, we should talk about Arizona, ladies and gentlemen. The Coyotes have lost 6 of their 7 last games at the All-Star break. They are out of a wild card spot. We don't hear it much in the media because it's Arizona, but the manager is freaking out. Antti Ranta hasn't been good enough. So the question is going to be, are they going to flip Hall? They do have time to decide what they're going to do. They have a big game against the Capitals. The Capitals are trying to keep first in the Metro with an injured squad with no Evgeny Kuznetsov. How does that affect their trade plans? Because they want defensemen, but if Kuznetsov out long term, do the Capitals get a center to help out? But if you're the Coyotes, you put a lot of faith in Hall. You're just like, oh my goodness, this is not good. Same with the Chicago Blackhawks. They are falling down. They have lost 6 of their last 7 since the All-Star break. They have lost 5 in a row. A big game tonight against the Calgary Flames. If they keep falling, and with 4 games, 5 including tonight before the deadline, what are they going to do? We know that they got both goalies are UFAs. Maybe they'll ship out Robin Leonard. We know Eric Gustafson's name is out there, especially the fact the Hawks haven't talked to him about a contract extension. But boy, oh boy, it is looking very dim for the Chicago Blackhawks when they're playing a Calgary Flames team that really has picked up their play the last few games. They've won 2 of their last 3. They're getting really depth scoring, and they don't want this to be the night Johnny Gaudreau breaks out and have a 5-6 point night, and it would just be an ugly scene for the Hawks. Their playoff hopes go down, down, down. In the East, especially the Atlantic, the Toronto Maple Leafs are battling out with the Florida Panthers for the final spot in the Atlantic. Alexander Barkov called out his team earlier this week, and I don't blame the guy. When you have a healthy squad and you see Toronto just really banged up with injuries left and right, no Freddie Anderson, you gotta take a chance. You gotta take opportunity and take it. But they've been losing a lot of their games. I think they won 1 or 2 since the All-Star break. So the Panthers are not good. Bob gotta be better. Like, he's had a really up and down year. And you pay that much money for a guy like Bobrovsky, you want more consistency. They're right now playing the Oilers. Last time I checked, they were down 1-0 unless it's changed. But the Panthers need to find a win because the Leafs, they're close to getting Freddie Anderson back. He is backing up Jack Campbell tonight at the Leafs out of the fans. But the Leafs, another key injury for them. Andreas Johnson is out for going to be possibly a week or so. But boy, Florida, you have the opportunity and you're just blowing it. And speaking of teams fighting the odds, we got to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. In the final wild card spot, Seth Jones is out now 8 weeks. Cam Atkinson is out a little bit time. If you are the Columbus Blue Jackets, if somehow you make the playoffs, I should have bet money on you or freaking bought a lottery ticket with you guys in my pocket. You guys, that's just incredible. This team, all the injuries, the adversity. No, they lost Bobrovsky, lost Panarin. They gave up so many assets for Duchesne. He's gone. Korpisalo been hurt. They've been dealing with injuries, and they make the playoffs with everything that has happened. My goodness. Couple of news and updates around the trade front. Right now, from what I'm hearing is, especially in Vancouver, where I am in right now, the Vancouver Canucks are kind of looking at Wayne Simmons because Michael Furlan, he in a conditioning stint with Utica. He played a game, but he left during injury. At this point, for the Canucks, you shut him down for his own health reason. The guy had the family. I understand he wants to play stuff, but it's never good in that situation. Maybe he can get them time to rest and feel better for next year. If it's not Simmons, maybe a guy like Derek Grant from Anaheim or a Nate Thompson from Montreal to help beef up your team. We heard the Kings, they're listening to guys like Martinez, Forbort, Toffoli. The thing, it's going to cost teams a second or third for Martinez and some prospect. Forbort, I think, going to cost a little bit less, and he had the lower cap hit. The Buffalo Sabres have waived Zach Bogosian. It has not anything worked out for Bogosian. It looks like he's not going to be claimed, so most likely he's going to spend the remainder of the season in Buffalo or in their AHL, or he's not going to play. I don't know. The final thing we are going to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, I know we've gone a little bit over today, is Jay Bouwmeester. Earlier this week, a game against the Blues and Ducks, he collapsed on the bench. A very scary sight. He's doing well. He had successful surgery for cardiac arrest. Hopefully, we wish Bouwmeester the best in his recovery. Hopefully, we'll see him on the ice. It's not going to be in the near future, maybe next season. We wish you the best, Jay. Hope you're doing great. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you this week. I know it's a little bit of a condensed episode with so much information just because it's been a busy time around the league. Next week, when we talk about Tradecenter, it's going to be on Sunday. We're not going to do our usual Saturday episode. Sunday, we're going to do a kind of prediction episode on where I think some of the top rental players are going to go and what the price they could pay. Have a great weekend, everyone, and always remember, watch some hockey.